All right, hello again, everybody. This is for part 2, and I hope to be in the picture completely here. A couple of things I wanted to mention. First of all, for the second batch that I'm going to do, I actually have another funnel and another container that I've sterilized, so I don't have to go back and wash these again. I'm just going to try to do this boom and then boom right onto the next one. So, and here's the cap. Now, one thing, I did order these jars. Mostly because they had caps too from this company. Not only the cheap price, but that the picture showed they had caps. When I got them, none of them had caps. So what I did is I took a cap from a gallon milk jug. I've got 3 of these. I washed them very carefully just to make sure there was no milk residue, and then I sterilized them, sanitized them in the washing machine, and they actually fit really well. Now I don't need them at this moment. Because the balloon's going to be on there for the process that we're going to be doing now, but briefly, I do briefly need the cap. And the reason why is it's going to be hard for me to get a spoon in here, and this is such a small container. If this was a 5-gallon container, I would definitely need a spoon, some kind of stirring device, but I just need this capped so I can shake it once I get things in. Also, I've got a container of hot water here. I microwaved a little bit of the spring water for about a minute and a half. I'm letting that cool down to about 104 to 109 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to add the yeast to that to bloom. And one other thing I did that I've seen people do, even though this is fresh honey, it's not crystallized or anything, I have put it into a little one of these little storage containers full of hot tap water, as hot as I could get the tap to go, just to kind of loosen it up a little bit. First things first, let's go ahead and pour a little bit of spring water in here into our clean jug. And I don't want to pour all of it there that I'm going to use. First of all, this is a gallon of water, so I don't want all of it in there because that's going to fill the whole thing up. There's not going to be room for honey or for the fruit. But second of all is the reason I'm doing this right now and not putting the whole thing is I want to put the honey in. If you put the honey in straight into the glass, it's gonna stick to the bottom of the glass, and we don't want it to stick to the bottom of the glass. So if there's a little bit of water in there, that makes it a little harder for it to stick in there. All right. So I'm just gonna move across here real quick. Get a towel, maybe. Dry off this honey. And we want 3 pounds in here, the full 3 pounds. So let's just go and make sure you don't overflow the funnel while you're doing this. And that is going to take a little bit of time to drain down in there, but I wouldn't want to do it any other way. I may look at getting a funnel with a little wider tip at the bottom sometime soon, but I think if I tried to pour this in, since the sizes of the honey container and the 1-gallon jug are about the same, I run a pretty good risk of overflowing, and I don't want to lose any honey. So I'm going to work on this step. I've also sliced the limes, and I did not end up using all of the limes. Once I got in here and I started working with them, there were 3 of them that I didn't use, just because you know, I don't want to fill up the entire container with fruit. One thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting fruit in here. We're going to be putting the mint in here, the grapes in here. That's going to take up a little bit of space. Plus, when you siphon this off and you know, you leave another about 1.5 inches or 2 inches at the bottom full of yeast, you're going to lose that amount of liquid too. So the more things you put in there, the less liquid you're going to have to take out. I think this is a good amount of limes for the juice and the flavor, and I've cut them at just a good size to fit through the neck of the bottle. I think that's all I need, and I want to maximize the amount of mead that I'm able to take out of here and that I'm able to drink. So let me go ahead and get this in here, and then we'll switch over and start working on the yeast and putting the limes in and things like that. Okay, I have almost all of the honey in here, and I want to show you what I've done. Now I've got some of the spring water in there. I've got most of the honey in there. There was a little bit of honey left in the jars, and what I did is I took a little bit of the spring water, poured it in there, and shook up the little honey container here, and got all the honey off the side. And I'm just going to pour that in here so we don't lose any, because that was a little bit expensive. You can see it's a little bubbly there from the air from being shook. I did that with the second jar. Now my yeast is at about the yeast water is at about 115 degrees right now, so I'm going to let that set and just kind of cool down just a little bit more. I microwaved it a little too much there. And while I let that set, I'm going to start putting limes in, as well as the raisins and the dried chocolate mint. And once I get the yeast in here, I will show you that step coming up here in just a minute. Okay, I have the lime in there, and I have the mint in there, and I have the raisins in there. One thing I know, if I ever make this flavor again, I would like to get a wider mouth jug, because it was difficult putting the lime slices in there, having to thin them down just a little bit further than they were. I imagine when I go to empty this out, turn it upside down, I'm going to have a hard time getting the lime chunks out of there. And second of all, it was kind of hard to get the dried mint in there as well. So I either am going to need a wider mouthed jug, or at least for that portion, I'm going to need a funnel with a wider tip on it. My yeast is at about 105 degrees now. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to pour this into the 105 degree water, and I'm going to let it set. I'm going to let it set for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to stir it, make sure it's well mixed. I'm going to use the funnel again, and then I'm going to put it into the 1 gallon jug. Once that's done, I'm going to fill it up with the remainder of the water to about the 1 gallon mark here on the jug. That's going to give it enough room to foam and to expand just a little bit with that foam. It might push the fruit up, it might push the raisins up, and I don't want it to all go up inside of the balloon, so we're just gonna give it a little bit of headway here. And boy, that yeast, you can tell that's yeast. That is definitely strong. So we're gonna let that set for a few minutes. I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna stir it, and then pour it back into the wine, or into the mead actually. Okay, as the counter gets messier and messier here, I put the yeast in here. I let it set for about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than 5 minutes. I stirred it a little bit to get it mixed up. There's some bubbling happening already on the top here. So now I've put the funnel back in. Got all my fruit, all my seasonings, flavorings, and honey in there with a little bit of water, and I am just now going to pour this yeast in here. This yeast mixture. Okay, none sticking at the bottom. Even though it was 50 cents, you know, still something I'd want to scrape all of it in there if I could. Okay, now you kind of see the layers of what's happening here. I'm going to take not the rest of the spring water, but some of the spring water, and I'm going to fill it up to that 1 gallon mark, to the 1 gallon label actually, not to where it is actually a real gallon, because we do want that space left. Okay, there we go. That is at the 1 gallon mark. This is where this is where the second funnel is going to come into play. I could use this one again. I'd have to wash it, you know, even though it's mainly just had honey through it. It's also had this type of yeast through it too, and I don't want to cross-contaminate the different types of yeast. You know, it's not going to kill anything, it's not going to kill anybody, but you know, I don't want to have like a little bit of this kind of yeast and a little bit of that kind of yeast in what I'm doing. So we'll get rid of that. We've got another one for the next time. I still have some more spring water for the next one. You could tell I've maybe used 3/4 of a gallon. 3 quarts, basically. Alright, so what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to cap it ever so briefly. Yep, that's figures I would cross thread it. Here, hold on a second. Alright, I got it capped. And now I am going to spend a minute or so shaking this. Making sure all the yeast, all the fruit, all the honey are all mixed together. Now look, it is, it's still separated out quite a bit. Maybe I should have shaken it a little bit more before I added the fruit. So this is going to be something I'm going to be working at here for quite a while. But when I'm done, I'll take a picture of it, how it looks and everything, or just take another video clip. We'll put the balloon on. We'll poke a little bit of a hole in the balloon, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, after a couple of minutes of intense shaking here, you can see that it's all one uniform color, except for the green up here at the top from the fruit and the mint. I'm going to use this cap for another stage, a couple weeks or several days out down the line. So I'm going to wash that and sterilize it again. What I did is I took this balloon and I rinsed it on the inside a little bit, because you know, sometimes they put that white powder in there, that latex stuff that get this on here. I'm just stretching it over the top, and there we go. Make sure it has good room to stand up. I'm going to take the safety pin, or you can take a needle, you can take a straight pin, anything you like. Just make sure you go straight down, that you're not going across or anything like that and ended up with more holes than you need. I just want one hole. And there we go. I'm through. That's sort of towards the top center there. So it's going to have some room to expand. The hole is small enough; it's not going to just stay deflated all the time. It's going to actually be able to stand up, fill out a little bit, but it's also going to allow it for the air to escape and do its job that way. Okay, so that is this batch done. As done as it's going to be right now. I'm going to work on the second batch, and then I will show you what it looks like when it's downstairs in storage. Okay, here I am in the basement. This is about 2.5 hours after I've put these in the bottle. I let them sit on the counter upstairs a little bit. This is our unfinished basement. I got some storage over there, some of the canned stuff I've made over the years. Got a shelf over here that doesn't have too much on it, so it's kind of in the dark. It doesn't really get very warm or very cool in here. It's usually between about 68 and 72 degrees ish in this area, maybe a little bit cooler. So I'm going to set these here on the shelf, let those set for a while. I work in the room right next door. Actually, it's a bathroom next door, then the room that I work in is right next door to that. You can see and even in this short amount of time, the balloons have started to fill up just a little bit, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'll come through here, I'll check these on my way to work in the mornings, kind of check the status and keep you guys posted when it comes time to transfer them from one jug to the next. Then we'll take them upstairs and work with that again. Alright, and also got the beer stored down here so I could settle that the beer that Zach sent. And oh, look, there's one missing. Wonder how that happened. Alright, take care everyone. Thanks for watching, And if you have any questions or comments or ideas or thoughts on how I can do things a little different, go ahead and let me know. All right, take care. Bye.